Welcome to the favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Action Network. I am Chad Millman, Chief Content Officer of the Action Network. Tonight is the tip-off of the most anticipated WNBA season in the league's history. Caitlin Clark making her professional debut on national TV on ESPN2 against the Connecticut Sun. Joining us to discuss the new season, one of the most beloved broadcast voices in basketball, a veteran of every WNBA season since the league's inception in 1996, the most recent recipient of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame's Kurt Gowdy Media Award. It's one of like 3 Hall of Fames that she's in. The original play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever, which means she is the voice of Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever this season. Debbie Antonelli, she will come on in 1 second. Joining me for this conversation, as always, my co-host, my companion, my compadre, BFF, professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Chad. Just the best time in sports, isn't it? We got playoffs, we got women's coming back, we got NFL schedule release. All of it. Like even the hockey has been amazing. So yeah, if you're a fan of sports, it doesn't get much better. I love that. You know how much I love betting the WNBA. So yeah, excited to talk about kicking off the season.
So I don't know if Debbie knows this, and I'll bring her on in a sec, but like WNBA has been a massive sport for bettors almost since its inception.
Yeah.
And I will say, Simon, calling Caitlin Clark's games this upcoming week may be the second most interesting thing Debbie does over the next week. We are going to get to all of that in a second. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power out the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Every episode of The Favorites is live on YouTube for those enjoying on YouTube. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Debbie, sorry for the preamble. Official welcome. Tell everybody where you are right now and why.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. I'm excited to be with you and spend some time. I'm in Las Vegas right now. I have the Phoenix-Vegas game tonight, which is a doubleheader. Caitlin Clark and the Fever play Connecticut first. And then later tonight on ESPN2, I get to work with Tiffany Green and Angel Gray on the call of the Phoenix and the back-to-back WNBA champions, Las Vegas Aces. It's a big bling night. The rings will be passed out. The banners will be dropped. It'll be a lot of fun in the arena.
All right, so you've been doing WNBA since its inception. You had a Hall of Fame career at NC State. You know basketball generally, women's basketball specifically, as well as anybody. When you're in the middle of a moment like this, what does it feel like specifically to be in the middle of this chaos and storm right now?
Well, I would use chaos and storm as positives in that.
Yeah.
But Chad, I mean, come on, man. It's about damn time. I mean, I've been waiting a long time for this. I have in different times of my career, you know, I've served as a director of marketing and athletics at Kentucky and at The Ohio State. So I have been pushing and promoting and marketing the women's game in particular for a long time. This will be my 37th year on the air coming up this college basketball season. So with the WNBA, I was there with the ABL before that. And this is what I call Clarkonomics. It's a confluence of many things coming together at the right time. And I am so excited about the season and where the W can go and what an incredible foundation that has been laid before someone like Caitlin Clark, who comes along as the greatest disruptor in our game. And that is a positive because it's made everyone pay attention, look through a different lens, see the game and the product for what it is and start investing. And we've never had anyone do that. And that's what's so exciting. Even talking about it right now gives me chills thinking about what's coming.
Well, when you're looking at Caitlin Clark specifically, what do you expect to see from her at the WNBA level? We've seen a little bit of it in preseason. You know, there was a ton of chatter when Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi were talking about how different it will be for her when she gets to the WNBA. What are your expectations?
Well, first of all, it's challenging for anyone because now there's no weak link on the court. So defensive schemes are different. There'll be different rotations that she'll have to adjust to. Offensively, I'm not worried about anything about her game. She stretches traps. She's got size to see over the top. She has a high IQ reading the second level. So if you do trap her in ball screen action, she will find the right play. That side of the ball doesn't concern me at all. The other side of it is, you know, Iowa did play a lot of zone. They are going to put her in multiple screening coverages. When you run her through multiple ball screen coverages and you make her play defense, of course, she's going to pick up some fouls. She's going to have to adjust to the physicality on that side. So defensively, when you say she's going to have an adjustment, yeah, Jackie Young, who I'll see tonight, was the #1 pick in 2019. She averaged less than 7 points her first season. So every rookie has an adjustment period, but no rookie has had this kind of skill set on the offensive side of the ball, and they have enough weapons around her. So I think she will have to adjust defensively. That's the biggest part, is that I'm running stuff right at her on the defensive end to try to make her guard and put her at a deficit so she can't impact the offensive side.
The challenges on defense, people trying to defend her, people having an attitude about defending her, which they should. I don't mean that in a pejorative way. How much do you think the WNBA needs Caitlin Clark to be magnificent from the beginning to maintain this momentum?
Well, first of all, let me say this about Caitlin, because I think she's a remarkable 22-year-old young woman who I'd like to call a kid. Okay, I've got kids older than her, so she's a kid to me, all right? And when I look at her and you listen to her, not one time, not once, has there been a mic in front of her face where she didn't say the right thing, takes the high road, says the right things, talks team, talks coaching staff, talks growth of the league. That's what she's always done. That's her habit. It's incredible, the amount of incredible publicity she's helped create because she's been such a great ambassador by handling it that way. So anybody who's taking shots at her is really, you know, if you're going to take a shot at her, describe it the way I did. Defensively, this is where the issues could be. This is what could be a challenge. Not overall sweeping, she's going to struggle, because everybody struggles. There'll be times in the season where she might not get double figures, or she might not get more than a couple of assists, or there might be a game where she has more turnovers than assists. I doubt it, but it could happen. And if it does happen, I'm not going to be throwing a bunch of shade at her, because there is an adjustment. Okay, so let's figure out how and why those things are happening if they do. I think she's managed all of what has come at her for a 22-year-old as well as you could ever imagine. So yeah, is there trash talking? Is there going to be some cheap shots? Are they going to try to be physical? Yes, they're going to do that. But wouldn't you do that with any great player? I think you would, because she's so good at what she does. You have to take something away.
Right. And I just piggybacking off of that, it's anyone that's a basketball fan, she's part of this generation of the Steph Currys. Like, she is Steph Curry in women's basketball. Go back and watch what he was like when he left Davidson to go to the NBA. He took a lot of elbows to the chin. A lot of people, they watched him in March Madness, right? So now he's coming in hyped up. She's going to go through these growing pains. I mean, there's going to be women that are going to be rough on her. That's just part of sports. That's part of coming into the league. And it's like, I think she's like, we just talked about, she's an excel offensively. Defensively, it's going to be tough. She's never played against women that are in their late 20s that are freak athletes, the best athletes in the world. So for a basketball fan, I love this. This is so fun because you're going to see her game evolve. And that's what's so cool about this. So my question to you is just, you probably don't even realize this. If you, the last 30 years you've been in women's basketball, you've had diehard NBA fans. The other half of your fan base are gamblers. I don't even know if women realize that, but their biggest half of their fan base we're sports bettors. I think that's the coolest part. The change has been the common fan now is fans of the WNBA, where it used to just be literally it was just me, professional bettors talking, and like the crazy diehard hoop fan. So, what is your feeling about the like NBA has embraced sports betting? WNBA, I know they're going to embrace it. What's your view on it now that it's going to become a huge part of this whole Caitlin Clark experience? Her prop bets is probably one of the biggest bet props of the entire women's basketball college season.
I have a huge smile on my face because let me give you a little history. You struck a chord with me, Simon. That is exactly something I love talking about. Now, I'm going to preface it with saying this. I've never bought a lottery ticket. When we're here in Vegas, I'm not gambling. My husband throws the dice. I drink the drinks. We're perfectly fine, right? But let me say this. If you go back and look, this is my 15th year that I have talked about this. 15 years ago, I was looking for this kind of disruption in our game, and I wanted the Sweet 16 to come to Vegas. Every time I'm in Vegas, I think about it because what I was trying to do was eliminate, well, there was a whole plan. You can read it in the New York Times, the Washington Post, USA Today. You can read the plan. It was there. And it was an effort to scrap the way we were running the NCAA tournament at the time. We didn't need 4 regionals. I wanted to have one. I wanted it to be here. Part of the reason why I wanted to be here in Vegas, because that's where I am right now, is the NCAA at the time was not allowing any postseason NCAA championships to be held in Vegas, yet every conference on the West Coast was having their postseason conference basketball tournament here. There were other NCAA events that were being hosted here, but the NCAA had their head in the sand over the whole gambling thing, okay? They didn't, the don't bet on it video, all of that. I felt college students, and I have 3 boys, I would rather that not see the don't bet on it video. I'd rather see safe sex, responsible drinking, to be honest with you. That's what I think college kids need. Anyway, I digress. All right, so I thought that this demographic was a demographic at the time in women's college basketball that we had not tapped into. The 18 to 35-year-old male demographic that, you know, when we're at Vegas when you're in Vegas in March during March Madness, that every casino sportsbook has the games on, the sportsbooks are crowded. If we just had one TV that had a women's basketball game on it, because we were here in Vegas, I thought that would have moved our metrics a lot sooner than where we are now. So I'm not saying that I had it all right, but I am saying that, yes, I am 100% into believing that this aspect of college sports, women's sports in particular, and the WNBA is a really important facet to bring that male demographic into our game.
It's so funny you mentioned that. When we first launched Action in 2018, before sports betting became legal, we were sitting in our office in New York, and there were 30 of us spread throughout the country. And it was May or June of 2018. And I heard this loud gasp, and someone started swearing. And I'm like, what is going on? There was a shared Google sheet that all of the high stakes bettors were using to model the WNBA games. And someone had screwed up the Google sheet. And it's indicative of what Simon is saying and what you're saying, that there is a audience there that has been the heartbeat of what this was. And look, you used your marketing background and said we should have been in Vegas a long time ago. It's interesting to me that you say there should be more, sex and drinking PSAs than betting PSAs. I don't disagree. I got a kid in college. I'm more worried about the first 2 than I am about the third one. So what's your take on that?
Well, that's it right there. I mean, you get what I'm saying. I think, and 15 years ago, betting wasn't legal across states, right? So there was a whole opportunity there to lead on the women's side, to lead, take a chance. It's a little risky. Change what we're doing, change the thinking. At the time, over the course of 15 years, even Mark Emmerich, who was the president at the time, said, there's so much hypocrisy about what we're doing in Vegas. We've got all these other championships there, yet we can't have an NCAA title there. He admitted it. And I was like, like, hallelujah. Like, honestly, I've been pushing and actually I've not had one coach say it was a bad idea on the women's side. So I do think that there are other vices that we should be worried about for our young people, and gambling obviously is one of them. Now, I'm not going to advocate gambling. I mean, I'm not going to sit here. I hate to say I don't know exactly what my own boys are doing, but I really, because of my job, I really don't. I do give them warnings that you better be careful, because you guys know the obvious can happen, so I don't want to make it sound like I've got my head in the sand, because I definitely don't. But I do think there are other things that we ought to be concerned about with young people, not just gambling, but safe sex, responsible drinking would be on my list with 3 boys.
You've
We're
called,
saying,
oh, go ahead, Simon.
I'm sorry, John. I'm just saying it is great though, where to me it's to get people into sports. I feel like betting responsibly is a great gateway to get into it, where, I've never watched a WNBA, right? Some guy today, he's never watched before. He listens to this show. He's going to put $5 down on the under or the over of Caitlin Clark's prop. And he might watch 20 minutes today that he had never in his life was ever going to watch. And he might realize quickly, like, actually, this is just the same as NBA. It's just as fun. It's just exciting. It's actually, I believe it's better on the eyes. I think it's more appealing to watch. So to me, it's a great thing that the WNBA to embrace a little bit, because it is a way to get people into the sport. It's a gateway to get them a foot in, because I have friends who never in their life did they ever watch Premier League soccer, but they made a little bet on it, and now they wake up Saturday morning, they watch Premier League soccer. It becomes part of their routine. So that to me is the battle for the WNBA. You guys have the summer. You have the summer. Like, people just do not like baseball. It's slow. It's boring to some people. There's a whole demographic out there for them to kind of corner in those dead months. So I love it. I just keep on thinking it's going to keep growing so much. It's just, there's so much untapped potential. And we just, like you talked about, Caitlin Clark has come in and already made a big change. We saw online yesterday, them flying in the private jets. That's just that's another step. So I just on your view, can you believe how much it felt like it was a slow burn, but now it's speeding up now where everything's happening so fast. What do you think the WNBA is going to be like in just the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, let me comment on what you said first, Simon, about because you're absolutely right. That was the premise 15 years ago about having the gambling aspect inside the women's game be a part of the whole Sweet 16 to Vegas concept, because I thought if people were putting money on it, they would watch. If they were watching, ratings would go up. If ratings went up, we'd have something to sell. It seemed to me to be an easy equation, because we needed something that was different. And that's why I was so keen on it and so big on it that if I talk about it anymore, I'm going to get fired, because ESPN asked me not to talk about it anymore. The
Right.
NCAA is our partners. Okay. So I'm not speaking on behalf of ESPN. I'm speaking on behalf of Debbie Antonelli right now. So I can't speak to that. I will say that I did push to get the WNBA on some betting platforms on ESPN. And I was doing that the last couple of years. They FaceTime me in my house, and I give them some B-roll in the morning, and I'd say, hey, Phoenix and Vegas, this is some things to look for. And I'd stay away from the numbers and the lines, so that way because I'm calling the game, I can't do that tonight.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. Somebody is going to throw $10 down on a prop and see what happens. And they're going to stick around and watch. And you know what's going to happen when they watch? They're going to find out that, man, Connecticut's pretty good too. And that Vegas tonight, back-to-back champs, Asia Wilson, she might be the best player in the league. I think she's going to probably be the MVP. She's the front odds winner to win it again. She's won it twice. So, I think that's a triple effect. I do think that expansion is coming. I think charter flights is definitely coming. Nobody has a bigger brain around the economics of the league than the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert. You can't just wish for charter flights to happen or want them. You got to find the economic money. You got to forecast forward. And I think that's the other part of it that Caitlin's not getting enough credit for. The forecasting forward of what the W can be because of the amount of presence. And not just Caitlin, she's the headliner, but Angel Reese, Camila Cardoso, let's see, she's starting the season hurt. What can she do? Rakia Jackson in LA, Cameron Brink in LA. I mean, you can go on and on with the amount of talent that's entered the league, but every year we have great talent that enters the league. There's a different spotlight on these players because their college time allowed them to have name, image, and likeness and social media and to be able to hire agents and do all the things that the current WNBA or the older players could not do. So it has elevated the platform. I'm one that believes that rising tide lifts all boats. And honestly, the only thing I'm looking at is the color green, because everyone's going to make more money because of the way the game is right now. And how could you not be happy about that as a player, a front office member, a staff? I can't tell you the number of people that say to me, yeah, the players don't get paid. Yeah, they deserve more. Yes. How are they going to make more money? You have to grow the league. It can't just be like snap your fingers and all of a sudden it costs money to do the things the players want. Yes, the players deserve it. I'm not saying they don't, but you have to be able to have the economics to be able to do it. And that's why I say Kathy Engelbert, she ran one of the top 4 accounting firms in the world, Deloitte. She certainly knows what she's doing from an economic standpoint.
When you watch women's hoops, whether it's college basketball or WNBA, and you're also doing men's hoops as well, when you think about the WNBA's development and the development of women's college hoops, Simon said, like, it's a more fun game to watch. It's lower to the ground. There's a lot more passing. It's a lot more fluid. It just feels like you're watching a game where it's not the stopping and starting and sort of the NBA. Do you have a preference when you're watching these games? Do you like watching women's college basketball more than men's college basketball, or vice versa?
So I love all basketball, and it's going to sound like a cop-out, but I watch it all. I love it that much, and nothing has taken me away from the game to not want to love it, right? So I will even give up a tea time if it's a game I need to see. That's my second favorite sport. So and all the resource we have now, you can watch a game anytime, anywhere. So that has helped somebody like me who just absolutely loves it. I'm a big time junkie. Here's what I'd say about the women's game. Yes, we play maybe at the rim, not above the rim. The below the rim game requires incredible skill set, and especially in the WNBA. I mean, if you can't handle and can't finish on the left side of the floor, and fundamental things that you teach little kids, you got to be able to do all those things. Something I say on the air: under overhead strap, vice jam, switch drop, the 8 different ways you can guard a ball screen. You don't need all those in college women's basketball. In the W, you have to mix it up a little bit more. So just that one piece of it, from which was an equal opportunity offense when I played, a lot of motion, a lot of screen off the ball, pass and cut. We still have that in the even the stuff that I have a team, my high school team, I'm teaching them 2-man side, clear it out. What can we get on the 2-man side? How many options do you have? And what matchups can you put in that? How can you isolate somebody? I think that's where the game and the scouting part of it has grown. And that's where, to go back to Caitlin Clark, that's somebody that has an incredibly high IQ. She can force a mismatch in certain options in their offense. And when she gets those mismatches, she can take advantage of it. That's the part for me, guys, for being around the game so long, that I've watched evolve. You know, players have always been good, skill sets been good. I think the best field goal percentage in the history of women's college basketball was in the mid-'80s when I was playing. So the players were good. Everybody could still shoot it. But the guys' game is very physical. There's no freedom of movement. They like to think that there is. It depends on if you like that style of play. In the playoffs, I do like it because I don't like to hear as much whistle. But during the regular season, especially in college men's game, you know, they're the only sport right now that plays 2 halves. They don't play quarters. Everyone plays quarters. When the women put the quarters in, honestly, at first I thought it was window dressing. I thought it was just a disruptor or change to look at the game in a different way. But it does give you a little more strategy, more 2-for-1s. It feels like the game's a little faster. I do miss the 1-and-1. I do think the women's college game, I'd like to have that come back, because I do think strategy at the end of the game when you have 2 free throws is much different than when you have a 1-and-1. So I don't know what the reason was for taking that out. I still have never gotten a good reason from the NCAA or the rules committee on that. Something that I think FIBA was doing, so they just adapted it.
By the way, as you were talking, one of our producers slacked a story from the LA Times of you pushing to have the Sweet 16 in Vegas from like a decade ago.
Yeah.
So kudos. Kudos.
Well, thank you for looking that up. I'm sorry I didn't mention the LA Times. I should have mentioned it too.
No, that's all right.
Everybody wrote about it.
That's all right. So quick read here. Simon, can you name the fastest growing ticketing app in the United States?
Game time.
That's right. It's Game Time. I love Game Time for two reasons. First, they still sponsor this show. Second, I actually use Game Time all the time. They have amazing last minute deals, including pro and college sports. Speaking of which, I'm opening the Game Time app right now from my house here in central Connecticut, no matter where you live. Oh, by the way, I'm opening from my house here in Connecticut. I can get into the Mets game tonight for less than $10. No matter where you live, download the Game Time app, get out, have some fun this week. You deserve it, and you can redeem code favorites for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just download the Game Time app. Use code favorites for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guarantee. We've talked about how much people like to bet on the WNBA. For any listeners interested in betting basketball, Action Network's NBA podcast, Buckets, has spun off its own WNBA episodes into an all-new show. If you are looking to bet the WNBA this season, check out the new podcast, Buckets WNBA. That's Buckets WNBA, wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay. I feel like we're 30 years into the WNBA. The game has evolved from players like Dawn Staley, who is now a legendary coach at South Carolina, to players like Caitlin Clark, from Sue Bird to Candace Parker, who just retired. Like the litany of WNBA players who have now become legends to sports fans is long enough. And also the game has evolved enough that it puts people like you in a tough spot, because now you'll be asked questions like, if you're naming the 5 best WNBA players, who are you naming?
Oh, you're not asking me that, are you?
I'm asking you right now, because it's like a
Wow.
crazy list,
Well,
because the game has changed so much. And
yeah.
like, those first few years, like Houston is dominating and Cheryl Swoops is amazing. And now all of a sudden, like people like that, people who are coming to the WNBA right now might not even remember or know that that was something that was incredible when the league was first starting.
Well, I'm running through my list of people in my mind, and there's so many. I mean, if I just went from Naismith and looked at, you know, somebody like Cheryl Miller didn't even get to play in the WNBA, right? So
Right.
that would be one of the all-time greats. But, Teresa Weatherspoon and Michelle Timms, two people you might not think about, are in Naismith. Lauren Jackson is Naismith, two Australian, Timms and Jackson, Australian players. Then you have the Houston dynasty that you just mentioned. Cooper, Swoops, Thompson. Okay. Then you have LA, Lisa Leslie, Hall of Famer. I mean, it's a tough list. Then you go to the Connecticut group, UConn. You mentioned Sue and Diana. Diana's not and Sue are not eligible for Naismith, but they'll be first ballot Hall of Famers. Breanna Stewart will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Maya Moore. I just helped induct her into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame this year. Simone Augustus going into Naismith this year. So, I mean, I say that is a tough list. That is a really hard list to come up with because, as you said, the game has evolved so much. Cynthia Cooper is always a great story for me because she spent 12 years in Europe and came back later in her playing days and dominated the league. Like if we had had the league before she had to go overseas, and then right now we're watching Asia Wilson. In just 7 years, got 2 MVPs, got 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, has 2 titles, is an all-star. She's set to, in the next couple of years, I mean, she could wipe away everyone else's credentials. That's how good she is. So I'm excited about what's coming. It's hard to pick 5. I don't know if I can get to 5, but I know Katie Smith is a Naismith Hall of Famer. You could just keep going through the list. There's so many greats that have played the game that came before this group of young talent that's entered into a new era that has elevated everybody's eyeballs, right? So that's a good thing. So I can't get you 5. That's too hard. I just rattled off a bunch of names. I'm sure I lost somebody there that I should have probably mentioned. Tamika Catchings, Tamika Catchings, Naismith Hall of Famer. So you caught me off guard a little bit, but that's a good conversation for me to be thinking about.
Well, you did give me a roster. You can't give me 5, but you can give me a roster, which is still pretty good. Because even some of those names, like I've forgotten Tamika Catchings, right? Like you forget, like I had forgotten Lisa Leslie. Like so many players who were so dominant and helped move the league in the direction that it is now, who, like when we talk about Caitlin Clark, you talk about Angel Reese, they're standing on the shoulders of all these players, right? Who over the years have had their moments where they were going to be the face of a league, is that as it transcended, that's what Caitlin Clark like is taking it to the charters, taking it to a double
Right.
header on national TV to open the season. But that's something that Lisa
Clarkonomics,
Leslie and all them got them
Clarkonomics.
to. Yeah.
It's Clarkonomics. I coined it in November.
Yeah.
It's a phrase I came up with. I actually have a t-shirt, Clarkonomics.
You getting paid for that? I hope you're getting paid for that because you're not getting paid for the Vegas idea. So you might as well get.
Yeah. No,
You know?
no, my best ideas result in zero income to the Antonelli family. So no, I'm not getting paid for that.
Speaking of Antonelli family, very smooth transition. Uh, you will be very soon, probably what is it? 3 days from now, I think. Uh, doing an endurance test that very few people can match for the Nothing But Net charity that you run. Explain what it is and what you're going to be doing. I have a lot of questions about this.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for giving me a chance to talk about this. 24 hours, Nothing But Net is a 24-hour free throw shooting marathon. I make 100 free throws on the top of every hour for 24 straight hours. So at the end of 24 hours, I've made 2,400. This is year 6, and I will be in my driveway once again on May 18 and 19. I start at noon and I end at noon. It takes me 15 minutes to make 100. We live stream the entire 24 hours. I have pre-taped and some live interviews of actors, celebrities, coaches, players. It's entertainment. The other 45 minutes are what we try to create as entertainment. In the first 5 years of the event, everything goes to Special Olympics. There's very little overhead in my driveway. So this is a fundraiser for Special Olympics. I have 3 boys. My middle son has Down syndrome. Special Olympics was a great spot for him to compete and train and organize and socialize. And we're trying to help other families do the same thing. It allowed my son to have confidence to go to college. He went to the Clemson Life program. Life is an acronym. Learning is for everyone. He graduated. He lives at Clemson independently with support, and he works 2 jobs. It's an incredible community that they've created there for people with intellectual and physical disability. And so in the first 5 years of our event, we raised $860,000. This year, I am poised and plan on and saying a good prayer that we can cross $1 million. So hopefully on May 19th at noon, when I'm finished shooting, we will have raised $1 million for Special Olympics. It's not something that I thought of. I came up with the idea. It was kind of a crazy whim. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if anybody would watch, and I didn't know if anyone would give. And 6 years in, we're about ready to raise $1 million for Special Olympics. So it's incredibly crazy and amazing and very emotional. And I'm sure it'll be very emotional when we get to the end on Sunday.
Well, I'm going to donate. I can guarantee Simon's
Oh,
going to donate. I would
thank you.
hope that a lot of our listeners are going to donate as well. When is it the hardest window to make the shots?
So after doing it for 5 years, the first year I was in the gym, and then COVID put us outside. And the first year we raised 85,000, and I didn't want to not do it. So we just went in the driveway and sort of did it by ourselves and live streamed it and made it work the best we could. The training is the hard part because it's the fitness part of it that it's not the I have muscle memory and the ability to self-correct. I probably shot the ball 1 billion times in my lifetime. I'm still shooting it. The hardest hours are the first couple of hours, the emotion, the adrenaline, all that. And then I was saying that in my training, I would be thinking about pushing through that 2, 3, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. But those hours I seem to shoot my best. So I didn't tell you my 5-year average is 94%. I have had a couple of hours that I did not miss. I've had several hours where I've missed 1 or 2. Those usually come in the middle of the night. So the first couple of hours and the last couple of hours are really the hardest. And listen to this, the first hour, the Mount Pleasant, I live in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. The police department runs the torch into my yard. We have a cauldron, a mini cauldron for Special Olympics. The torch burns for 24 hours. We have a lot of people that are there. Last year, Roy Williams showed up in my driveway for the first hour. You talk about being nervous shooting 100 free throws. I mean, that was incredible. I missed 7 the first hour. So it's not about the free throws. That is the platform and the vehicle to share the stories. And most of the live stream has Special Olympic athletes from all over the country. Coach K, Dabo Sweeney, Shane Beamer. You know, I've had Jim Nance, I've had Ernie Johnson. I dig deep into my basketball Rolodex to try to come up with as many big names as I can and ask them to push it out on their social. It's all helped us raise some money. So it's it's quite crazy. It sounds crazy. I do get AARP mail, but I'm out there hustling and scrapping and grinding and trying to raise as much money as we can to help Special Olympics, to help families like mine, because I know how important it is.
What do you do for the other 45 minutes? It takes you 15 minutes to make free throws.
Well, there's a lot. You guys might be too young to remember Jerry Lewis and the muscular dystrophy telethon, but that's sort of what I'm doing. I'm in the driveway. I might be leading to the next interview. I might be doing a live interview. I might be, you know, capping off something we just ran to tell a story. It's a constant effort to try to ask people to give. And what I ask everyone I meet is for 1 penny for every free throw. That's $24. Most people can do that or a little bit more. And that's how we've raised it. It's been very much grassroots. It's all a grassroots effort. I have a lot. The average donation, I think, was $150 over when we get to 1 million. I think it's probably going to be about 150 to 200 is the average donation.
Very important question for a gambling podcast. Have you ever hustled anybody who didn't know who you were in a free throw contest?
No, I've never had a chance to do that, but I would like to. I do have one donor that gives me $250 for every hour over 90%. And last year I only missed 2, and those were the last 2. So that's the kind of, I wish I could come up with some more of that, because that puts the money ball equation into it, because in my mind, I know how many I've missed. So so it's the other 45 minutes I'm not sleeping. I don't go to sleep, and I don't start drinking coffee till about 6. So I figured out a way to manage the hydration, and there's a lot of people in the driveway. I mean, all hours of the night, there are people there, and they're having a good time. So it's fun. I can just say this, that people come and they say, like my 2 sisters who for my entire life never rebounded for me in the driveway, or everyone out there, and you know, but they're like, what are we going to do? Come down there and watch you shoot free throws? We've watched you shoot your whole life. I'm like, well, yeah, you're going to watch for 15 minutes, but there's a lot of stuff going on. And pretty soon it's time to shoot again. So it's been amazing. It's been amazing. It's been amazing the amount of impact the money has had, and the awareness that it's generated for Special Olympics. And I wish I had started it 15 years earlier. If I'd started 15 years earlier, I can only imagine how many millions of dollars we might have raised by now. But this is the first million, and I'm going to keep working on the second million. And like I say on the air, I'm going to shoot till my arm falls off, and it literally is falling off in the driveway. So I wish people knew how hard I worked and trained to get ready, because it's not easy. That's the hardest part. That and maintaining the emotions in the last hour is pretty hard too.
24 hours nbn.com is the fundraiser website to donate. 24 hours nbn.com. Last question. If you can make a prediction for who will win it all, where do we want to make our futures bets? You don't have to say it's a futures bet. Are we going with the Aces third time in a row? Is it a super team from New York? Where would you say the best, who's most likely to win the WNBA title?
Well, it's not a great money line for you guys, right? But it is Vegas. I do think they're the best team. They averaged over 90 points last year. They have 4 All-Stars on their roster. They got Asia Wilson. They won more games than anyone last year. They went over the 30-win mark. They have everything in place to do it again. Vegas is on fire for women's hoops. It's a great environment to be in. But I do think that I'm keeping my eye on for a couple of sleeper teams like Dallas and Enrique Agumbawale. She's such a big time scorer. They have an injury to start the season with Satu Sabali. She's not available right now. Keep my eye on Dallas. Of course, Indiana hasn't been in the playoffs since 2016. I think if there's a prop out there, whether they make it or not, I would definitely pick them to make it. I think they will make it. I think not only Aaliyah Boston, but Nalissa Smith is a big time player. She could be an all-star this year. I think she is equally adept at handling the 2-man game with Caitlin as Aaliyah does, which gives them other options. Kelsey Mitchell is one of the all-time great scorers in the history of the NCAA. Caitlin passed her along her rise this season, and I've got great faith in Indiana. The other team is Minnesota. Cheryl Reeve has won 4 of these. She had a dynasty herself. I would keep my eye on them. Those are the teams I'm watching right now. And then the next super team that people are talking about is Seattle, because they got Skylar Diggins-Smith, who did not play last year. She's back in the backcourt with Jewel Lloyd. Jewel Lloyd's a big-time scorer, and Neko Gumake moved over from LA over to Seattle. So those are a couple of teams and storylines I'm keeping my eye on. I do think Vegas has the ability to three-peat. That hasn't happened since the 0-2 Sparks during Lisa Leslie's time. So that is a couple of storylines to keep your eye on. But most importantly, for the W fans, is please buy a ticket. Please go to the games. Please support the league. Please turn the TV on. It's going to help the league continue to grow and help those players get paid more, and it will help the charter flight situation as well.
Also, donate 24 hours, nbn.com. Debbie Antonelli is going to make 2,400 free throws over 24 hours straight. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boosts. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Don't forget, check out Action Network's new podcast, Buckets WNBA. That's Buckets WNBA, wherever you listen to pods. Simon and I are back on Thursday with the next episode of The Favorites on the Action Network YouTube page, 11 a.m. Eastern. NFL sports betting and sports business with Joe Pompliano. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars. Say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until Thursday, love you.